One of my most treasured possessions is a book by the Scottish writer Ian McLaren. It's titled Beside the Bonnie Briar Bush. I think I treasure it so much because it was given to me by Ruth Graham, the late wife of Dr. Billy Graham, and she inscribed a beautiful dedication inside the book for me. And there are several stories in the book, but my favourite story begins in a small Scottish town. It's a story of a father and a daughter. It's really a father and a prodigal daughter. His name is Lachlan, and Lachlan was a stern, judgmental man who made life miserable for everybody around him, especially his own daughter, his only daughter, Flora. What made it even sadder is that he did it all in the name of God. Well, one night, he went to church and announced that he wanted to bring a matter before the church council. He told them a young woman had rebelled, left home, and gone to live in London. Lachlan asked that night that this young woman's name be removed from the church roll. When they asked for her name, he told them it was Flora, his own daughter. Well, the young minister took Lachlan into his study and asked him what happened. Well, Lachlan told him that Flora had left a note for her father telling him how much she missed her mother who died, and that it was clear to her that she was a disappointment to her father. She'd never be good enough. She'd never measure up to his religious standards. And so she wrote, "I don't think I'll ever see you or my mother again in this world or the next." Her letter was smudged with her tears. Well, the minister refused to take her name off the church roll. He told Lachlan, "This is not the gospel." But Lachlan said to him, "Well, I want you to know this. I have blotted her name from my Bible." Well, meanwhile, in London, Flora, desperate, lonely, heard singing coming from open church doors as she walked by. She felt compelled to go in. She sat in the very back pew and listened as the congregation sang, "There is a fountain filled with blood, drawn from Emmanuel's veins, and sinners plunged beneath that flood lose all their guilty stains." The sermon that night was on the prodigal son. The preacher kept repeating one line over and over, "You are missed, you are missed, you are missed." In her miserable loneliness, Flora decided to head home. She had no idea what her reception would be. I think that's a fear of every prodigal, of all of us. What if we head home and we're rejected? But Flora took the next step and she got on the train to head north to her home in Scotland. It was dark when the train stopped at her station, and Flora got off and began the long walk to her father's house. As she climbed the final hill and caught the first glimpse of home, she saw there was a light on in the window. See, God had been doing a work in her father's heart too. The same night that Flora had been compelled, drawn into the church in London, a woman had confronted Lachlan and told him his shame was far greater than his daughter's. "After all," she said, "woe to us if our father had blotted our names from the book of life." God pierced this old man's heart, and he left a light on in the window every night after that, praying that his darling daughter would come home. Well, the dog was the first to hear her footsteps approach the house and ran barking to the door. And as Flora made it up the last few steps to her house, her father wrapped his arms around her neck and kissed her. Later that night, he showed her what he had done by erasing her name from the family Bible. And he said, "Flora, can you ever forgive me?" Well, Flora asked for a pen, and she wrote this inside that Bible. Flora, missed April 1873, found September 1873. Her father fell on her neck and kissed her. You see, the selfish younger brother, the self-righteous brother, Flora, her father, every one of us, we can be sure of this, of the Father's invitation, come home, come home. Always waiting for us is a Father who runs to every lost child with love and mercy and welcomes us home.